This is the second half of the season. This sets the table. It is best 7 of 10, and right now, your final points are starting to take shape. Those who don't have what they need now need to step up to the plate because opportunities are running out. We will start today in the home of what is national racing in the United Kingdom with a circuit which is so close to Hethel and the Lotus testing tracks out there. We have Snetterton on the horizon. This is the Simify MX5 World Sim Series, but we start with the Club Series. It's 3 races tonight. We'll have the World Sim Series heading to you in a little bit. Welcome, everybody, to the party. Welcome, everybody, to the conversation. My name is Jake Sperry, and alongside me today for today's action is Zach Sweeney. Daniel Costello is going to be on the cameras for this one. He's using the cameras that are provided by Dougie Beard. But we start with Snetterton, a circuit which has had a lot of national pride in the United Kingdom and is known more in touring car circles than it is, so to speak, than it is in a international affair. But let's get a bit of an understanding of what Snetterton is all about with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Snetterton Circuit. Like many British tracks that were born shortly after World War II, this venue was made out of an old military airfield. It's a mere 30 minutes drive from Norwich and offers up 3 different layouts of varying lengths. This means the track is easily able to host international, regional, and club-level racing. Previously rather simple, the circuit's most recent update in 2011 introduced a twisty infield section. Still, it's mainly punctuated by 2 very long straights, the Senna Straight, where the pits are located, and the Bentley Straight, which acts as the backstretch. As you'd expect for a track born out of an airfield, there's little in the way of elevation change. However, the one spot in which you do find some undulation, it really stands out. The bomb hole dips cars down in the middle of a quick right-hand kink, causing them to have to keep a heads up lest they lose the car. The track is not without character, though. Rich's is very swift for a first turn and includes 2 distinct apexes. There's also the combination of Brundle and Nelson, which forces drivers to turn hard while braking. Never an easy combination to manage. The long sweeping run through Coram down into Murray's can also be quite tricky. The car will want to drift out, forcing a shallow entry into the final left-hander. But failing to give yourself a good exit will leave you vulnerable to attack down the pit straight. Perhaps not as famous as some other British circuits, this place is a bit of a hidden gem in the UK motorsport scene. Fans who get to witness racing here certainly seem likely to return.
It's the motoring pride, of course, of East Anglia, a circuit which has relatively remained stoic in terms of what it's dealt with. But this is a track, Zach, that when you look at it in terms of the 200 layout instead of the 300 layout that we're using today, it is very much a place where overtaking is going to be key. Rich's and Brundle Nelson, I think, are going to be the 2 key places today.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, these MX5s, very raceable cars, and Snetterton, it's fantastic. There are not many good things that come out of Norfolk, but Snetterton most definitely is one of them. And of course, more people are going to be familiar with the 300. We have got the slightly altered 200 layout, and again, that emphasizes the slipstream, the straight line speed. Of course, the Senna Straight, the pit straight, very long. Ritchie's a very fast right-hander as well. The Bentley Straight, the longest in the UK. Plenty of places to get these moves done, and hopefully a fairly sort of, I suppose, an oval dynamic to take to as well.
Yeah, it definitely has that sort of feel to it, and it is one of those circuits that you look at on paper and say, we're going a little bit old school, because there didn't used to be a 200 layout or a 300 layout, so to speak, until 2011, the updates to the circuit, and then, of course, after that, 2010, it was 2 90-degree right-handers that put itself together. Let's talk championship, though, in the Club Series, because in the driver rankings, it has been the Christian Bisserov show. He has been magical in terms of his qualifying, and he finds himself 32 points clear over Luis Suarez. Michael Elliott finds himself 3rd ahead of Rene Zegelaar, with Sandavara in 5th position. Pedro Marimon and Tom Weston find themselves 6th and 7th, and it's a race for the top 10 because the top 10 qualify themselves at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca when the season is through 10 rounds. They will get the back 10 grid stalls on the grand final. So with Thomas Martinez, David Mitchell and Damian McMullen, they are the ones who are holding that bastion up for the time being. And that, I'm sure, is going to be something worth really keeping an eye out on, as well as the Nations Cup here, Zach.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, many different championships to keep our eye on. As you can see, Bulgaria, unsurprisingly, leading the way, but by only 26 points. And then it's another 26 points back to the Netherlands, and then, of course, into Portugal. So quite a uniform top three, it must be said. Only 1 point back then of Brazil in what is a fairly close fight for the entirety of the top five as well. So not only do you have your own honours as a driver, you're also there representing your nation.
You absolutely are, and that is something that I love. It's that camaraderie that goes along between all of these drivers. So you've got to keep an eye out on that. We've also got the teams which are here together, and it's being dominated by the Bulgarian team, Negative Delta by Bueller's out there. So that's been doing a wonderful job out there, 52 to the good over the three wide racing team, with SDC Spirit 14 finding themselves in third. It's then Positive Delta, and it's a little bit of a gap back between Positive Delta and 1P Motorsport. So second through fourth is very close at the moment. You then got Sweat Sim Racing in sixth, Turismo Racing seventh, then it's GTD Racing, Rosso Esports and SRL who make up the top 10 in the team's championship overall. But let's talk about how we're going to be racing here today, what that format is going to feel like, and how everybody is going to coagulate through this racing. And Zach, I think the big thing here is that it's drivers in seeded splits, and that is one of the big keys to this series being so successful.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, beyond that, we've got the usual 25-minute races. We start with a club, we move ourselves into Division 2, and then the top flight in Division 1. All of them fighting for top honours, all of them fighting for their place in the finals. Fixed setup, of course, to keep everything nice and fair. You can't gain an advantage by sweating out the circuit hundreds upon hundreds of laps to try and refine it. And it's going to make it very, very interesting, especially with the circuit we've got in store for us today. And, of course, each of those drivers in said seeded splits, they've already done half the season, half of it left to go, and this is really one of those pivot points, isn't it, in a championship. The first half is done and dusted. Now you look to the final few rounds to see what you can do.
Absolutely. This is the series, though, that is a once-a-month series. It's not like, some would say, different series out there, Zach, where basically the majority of series is a week-to-week series. So you get a sense that at that time, if you're dialed in, you absolutely got it. This is where you get massive fluctuations in terms of who's got what. 2 minutes, 40 seconds remaining in qualifying, and crucially, it's hot shot qualifying. You've only got one lap to rule them all, essentially.
Yeah, and especially at a circuit like this, which it is really fast, really flowing, it can be very difficult, particularly the car we're following here, this final sector through Brundle and Nelson, being so careful, of course, of those huge curves on the inside of both of the apexes. Then you have to dance your way through the very long right-hander of Coram as you descend. Probably one of the only little bits of undulation in the entirety of Norfolk, it must be said, through the final corner. All about that exit. Again, momentum, such a key thing here. The pole time as it stands is, of course, by our championship leader, Christian Bezerov, with a 21.6. Seems to have a decent hold on the standings at the moment, but still a minute 50. I think we're still waiting for a couple of cars to come across. Let's see what they can do.
Yet a number of drivers haven't been able to set lap times out there, and that includes the number 2 machine of Luis Suarez, who's not been there. Sandavara, then through turn 2 of Wilson, an immortalized tree there is managed to find itself in iRacing and will always be there. It was blown down a couple of years ago. But on this Bentley straight now for Sandavara, he's now looking at how does he maximize his run forward through the gears into fourth. And this might be one of the most underrated, difficult corners in the world of sim racing today here, Zach, because you've got to do the toughest skill in motorsport, which is the trail brake.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one that you always have to learn, sort of as an immediate fundamental if you want to be anywhere, but to carry that speed, because it's quite deceptively fast as Brundle. I mean, some people see it as a fairly slow chicane, but it's not. You carry so much speed through, especially in this MX5. It's not got a lot of downforce, and you're relying so much on those tyres. You have to balance the weight of the car. As I say, through Coram again, dancing it through. Difficult on the brakes into Murray's because you're turning and braking downhill. Then it's all about how quickly can you put your foot to the floor towards the line.
Sandavara, we'll see what time this is as he crosses the stripe. It's a 1:22.7. It's good enough for the third row of the grid then in 6th position. But Michael Elliott, third in the championship here, is looking for a great time in the Positive Delta Motorsports car, rushing around through Coram Corner into Murray's 90-degree left-hander, jutting curb on the inside that is anti-cut to protect the grass on the inside. He gave it such a wide berth you could park a double-decker bus in the gap there. Elliott driving to the line, 23 flat. He won't be happy with that in 8th position. He has the ability to go quicker than that, and that will mean qualifying is complete. So we'll hand ourselves over to the Simify starting grid. Simify is your one-stop shop for all your sim racing gear. You can choose from iconic brands and mix and match for the best way to get your leg up on the competition. Simify ships worldwide, and they also have 2 sim racing centres, one in Madrid, one in Barcelona, and they are dedicated to improving your sim racing skills. Head over to www.simify.com/MX5WSS to have your discount applied automatically on your sim racing purchases today. Christian Bitterov is perfect on pole, 1:21.639, over half a second quicker than Lorenz Den Ouden in second. Tom Weston and Alexander Nikolov will start on the second row, with Carlos Horn and Sandavara 5th and 6th. Eric Kieros starts 7th along with Michael Elliott, with Thomas Martinez and Andre Luigi rounding out the top 10.
Behind that, of course, we complete the next 5 rows. Marcos Suarez ahead of Pedro Maramon for row 6. João Schubert ahead at Bacchus. They keep each other company on row 7. Completing a top 15, 11th place in the championship goes to Rantanen, ahead of Bruno Albino for row 8. Sir Alan Toon alongside De Villa for row 9 with Zagela, and of course the number 40 machine of Schlomer to complete the top 20 cars.
Yeah, and all these drivers are now put on iRacing because they didn't, iRating, sorry, as they didn't set time. Suarez, Duarte, and Wietse Bertels, the final driver there. So this is going to be where the second half of the season comes into play. A dominant qualifying here from Christian Bisserov. And look at the track conditions. They're going to be fixed here today at 27 degrees track temperature. It is ideal conditions for sim racing here in iRacing today. So Bisserov will look. Den Ouden, Weston, and Nikolov, lights on here and light out. 25 minutes on the clock, and we are underway. There's a very nice start there in between the gantry and the scrutineering section over on the inside infield, but it's going to be comfortable into Rich's corner for Bisserov. He won't be challenged. There's challenges there for Tom Weston. He'll lose out immediately then to Alexander Nikolov, and maybe Carlos Horn as well might want to try and find his way through. On the brakes into Wilson, straight down the inside, and he will jump on through into 4th. Not the start that Tom Weston wanted as they scrap behind on the straight. That's Michael Elliott dealing with Eric Kieros.
Yeah, but it's the perfect start, isn't it? Of course, for our leader, getting a fantastic launch and just trying to bridge that advantage. But it's line astern in the slipstream as we expected, trying to run their way side by side, of course. I think that's going to be Kieros trying to find their way through. That's, of course, the inside going into the chicane. Not quite close enough. Of course, Marcos Suarez finds his way through on the apex. Got to be careful, though, because it's easy to contest, and there's issues up in front. The 22 of Alexander Nikolov getting a slow run.
Yeah, he just ran wide off the corner and had to really scramble, and then through the bomb hole very nearly. Michael Elliott trying to poke his nose down the inside. It's very much difficult on this opening lap if you are keeping your eyes peeled. One small mistake and you do really hemorrhage time around this circuit. One lap then will be score complete, and look at a gap at the front. It's already 1.4 seconds for Christian Bisserov, who is at 1 with his Miata at this moment in time. Along the centre straight, looking towards Rich's corner then, the opening section of track out here. And right now, this group now needs to just settle down into a rhythm. There is Pedro Marimon, looking at his SDC Spirit 14 racing teammate of Thomas Martinez.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to be so careful battling this early on in the race, because all you're going to be doing is losing time upon time, but it's not stopping them. Through turn 2, of course, a slight look to the inside, but nothing major materializing. You've got to remember, you know, there's still plenty of opportunity left to go in this race. The sooner you begin to battle, the sooner you start to cap yourself, because there is such an importance on slipstream that if you lose it, it's so much more difficult to get it back. It's not going to stop the South African of Michael Elliott finding a way through to the inside. It's going to be hard fought, and oh my goodness me, over the curb, and both of them off the road.
It's so easy to do. You turn and brake at the same time. Alexander Nikolov was a passenger in that situation because it was so aggressive of a turn-in from Michael Elliott. Not what the driver third in the championship wants, and everybody now is going to jump a couple of positions up there. Thomas Martinez now up in 8th, and look at what he's having to deal with right now. That's the Turismo car of Marcus Suarez. No relation to the other Suarez out there, but Bisserov has made a mistake. He has now lost the race lead here by going wide through the final corner here and trying to scramble that back. So Lorenz Den Alden now leads this race. Bisserov second and Carlos Horn in third.
Yeah, that is a costly mistake. He had the perfect start and exactly what he needed to get this race running, but that is how it happens. One small mistake, he's now a part of the pack, and this has gone very sour for the Bulgarian. He's got to work hard, but what an opportunity for the Dutchman, who's now got the track position. However, 21.5 minutes of this race still to run, and Bisserov straight on the counter-attack.
He is, and blinking about a bit, which will not be good for Lorenz Den Alden there, who will now be sort of half guessing where he is, and he absolutely had to back out of it there, and that put Carlos Horn side by side, round the outside, contact between them front to rear. Horn holds on, Den Alden first to third in the blink of an eye there. That was going to be very scary in terms of that issue going forward, but ultimately they keep it all together. Weston sitting back there in 4th position will be looking pretty, thinking, oh, I'm sure there'll be a chance here to get Lorenz Den Alden right now after Murray's and onto the centre straight. But you've got a real sense that in these early stages you are trying to find rhythm and momentum, and that was just broken for Den Alden.
Yeah, it's very sort of emulative of, say, a karting race with how close these cars are together and how important that momentum is, because, you know, you see it all the time is that you get overtaken, you're shaken exactly like that. Sent wide is Den Alden. That's going to invite Tom Weston to nip his way up the inside through Ritchie's through that final part. Has the inside on the brakes and should seal this deal. Let's see what it's going to be. The 12 washes wide, loses that momentum and has to really chop off that left-hander, loses even more of it. And now he's got to look behind him because his fellow countryman, of course, Avara, just in behind that number 5 machine, is drawing its way alongside. We were talking about how important momentum is, and that is the perfect embodiment.
It certainly is. It's such a short run to go from Wilson corner to Chapman, and immediately on the brakes earlier, Lorenz Den Alden wanting none of side-by-side, allows then Sandavara to go through and move up an extra position out there. Getting busy in the middle of the pack, that's Armanula Bacchus going a little bit wide there, and that opens up Andre Luigi and Luis Suarez then through into this one. We have just had our first retiree from the race, and that is Wietse Bertels, who went around, took the tow, and didn't have his fast repairs check, so as such he is out of the race. But look at Vara and Den Alden still going there as we watch Madamon, his teammate, under a little bit of duress through the final corner. That's Zhao Schubert trying to find his way through, and this long straight, this is where you get that dueling mentality heading over towards Rich's corner.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very fast right-hander, but in these cars, it very much is a decent overtaking opportunity because you do have to dip that front end in on the brakes side by side as they run their way through. This could be very nice indeed. Of course, the car on the inside gets the advantage and will have the inside once again for turn number 2, but that sweeping outside nature could well allow Marimon to just about hold on. Indeed does. The green car, of course, the 27, washes wide of Zhao Schubert and has to back out, and immediately that 1v1 that they were having has quickly involved more and more cars thanks to that loss of momentum. It's such an easy trap to fall into.
It really is. This is a car that is built on momentum. It doesn't have the top speed, and Armanula Bacchus diving for the inside, hoping he's got it straight on, and abandoned ship Zhao Schubert. He'll get a slowdown penalty for his troubles, and he will have to serve that by the time he gets back up to speed. Now he'll try and increment that. You've got about 40 seconds to serve that penalty, otherwise it will form into a drive-through out there. So Schubert is trying to be really, really coy with how he serves that slowdown penalty over and over again. On the brakes, he will have to let that go at some point and just resist, still not served. But watch out, because here comes Tom Weston looking for position here. He's going to dive for it on the inside, and Carlos Horn now will lose out. And this is the Carlos Horn that comes into today here, Zach. 5 points off of one of those 10 magical places into the grand final at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And with 9th and 10th not here today, this is a golden chance.
Yeah, exactly, and it's one that he's not going to want to throw away. Second, third, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, second would be much better, but if he's there in third, that is still fantastic points to take away on a day that some of his competitors aren't here, and I think that is a statement of intent. Bit of bump drafting just to say to Weston, you know, I'm not going to contend it that hard, mate. I'm happy with P3. It's still a podium. It's still fantastic points on a day that I need to nail. The risk versus the reward does not outweigh a very hard-fought fight for second, at the very least not at this stage.
No, and this is what everyone's doing. Everyone is scrapping right now. You can see there the groups all looking together. The Catalan flag there for Pedro Marimon on his wings. The Spanish flag there for Thomas Martinez just behind his teammate with Bacchus, with Luis Suarez. What a run Luis Suarez is having. He's up 8 spaces here in this race. He is the hard charger, and he'll be looking for at least the top 10, if not a little bit more.
Exactly, and you always, as a racing driver, want to maybe be a little bit cheeky, try and get what you can, and to be fair, we've still got plenty more racing left to go, 16.5 minutes, plenty more laps, plenty more opportunities. Suarez looks to go to the inside, it's a half look into Ritchie's, and that's all he needs, that's all he needs. That is the textbook move into that corner. Show your nose, throw them off, and then find your way through nice and easy.
Oh, Weston's around. Tom Weston's just spun out of Chapman Corner, turn 3, the 007 car is looking very un-Bond-like.
That is huge. Unfortunate, of course, for Weston. He's rejoined the race in 6th, so still not bad going, but not at all what he'd have wanted considering the success that he was having up until that point. P7 in the championship and P2 would have gone a long way in order to assist with that. And it's another mistake through the second part of the chicane. It's all about momentum, and he's throwing it away. Let's take another look as to how it happened.
GSRC replay then on screen, and this is unforced. He was trying to chase down Christian Bisserov. He just about flicked that gap to 1 second, and then through Chapman Corner, you can see he just grabs the curb on the inside, and you can be aggressive with these curves, but the thing about this MX5 is that it is very much a car of balance, and a car that's so balanced like this, the moment you unsettle it, you're going to be in trouble. More battling. The 3-wide racing car thinking almost about 3 wide here against Pedro Marimon, and do not forget Vara versus Den Ouden versus Kierov for what is now the final spot on the podium.
Yeah, exactly, that prestigious podium, of course. Every driver's going to be vying for it. That's that exact fight right here. Sandovar is through, and Ouden then drops back to the back of this train. That is how quick the pendulum can swing. Of course, what it does do is make Queiroz the Brazilian sandwich with some Dutchman bread either side of him, with 14.5 minutes left to go. Not really too long, but still over half the race left to go. Queiroz then looks to the inside, gets the squeeze from the number 5, gives it a go all the way to the inside. Textbook. I mean, it's on the edge of the limit, but no harm, no foul. I think that's just MX5s.
Well, you have to say, Sandovar was trying to shut that door. It was a delayed shutting there, and Eric Kierov really had nothing there for it, as this now, Pedro Marimon starts to run wide. Kierov has just been turned around by Laurens Den Ouden. Out there, you can see him gliding about through Corum. Den Ouden looking more rallycross. He'll finally have the car spin around, and those two have taken each other out of battling picture. Kierov will join behind Luis Suarez.
That, again, is heartbreaking for each of those drivers. They're going to rejoin Lorenz de Ouden. You can see that through Corum trying to rejoin the circuit.
He's damaged.
That is heartbreaking. So unfortunate for him, because there's not really much you can do in order to recover to a decent position from then on. It is effectively game over for a fight for the podium. But, of course, the show must still go on. They're going to be battling still, nonetheless, side by side through Corum Bend.
Yeah, Eric Kierros, Thomas Martinez, Alexander Nikolov, eyes bigger than the belly inside of Wilson, but you can hang around the outside. It's all about this run here. Look at Nikolov's run, and they go side by side with a hefty amount of contact. Nikolov's run gets absolutely balked, and here goes Marimon with Armanula Bacchus and Andre Luigi watching this. Here, this is some brilliant stuff right now. Marimon dueling down the Bentley straight, hoping he has a Continental-style engine in his car, and he will pretty much block that pass off and get exactly what he wanted.
I like that one. Bentley Continental, nice going. That was, yeah, good stuff. And the number 6, though, all over the rear end of the 8, of course, Marimon trying to find his way through. But when you've got 4 cars nose to tail, it's so difficult to try and set up moves because you're always looking forwards to attack, backwards to defend. It's a difficult balancing act. Not only with that, you've got a difficult circuit, and a small mistake there from the number 6 hampers that momentum. With this slipstream, it'd be interesting to see what Nikolov can do, of course, just in behind in that 22, but I don't think is quite close enough. Marcus Suarez on the outside of Richie's corner. That is not going to happen. Has to back out and falls in behind. Of course, Luis Suarez just ahead in that number 2. They're both trying to chase down for 4th place.
Yeah, they both are, and they are hoping that the move is going to be there. Suarez giving chase, but at this moment in time, Zach, it's Suarez versus Suarez, and it's Luis Suarez who's on top.
It is, and of course, it's the thing. Do they battle for 5th place? Is it worth it? They've still got half of it left to go, and to be fair, the gap to Western isn't huge. They've still got a mutual benefit to have here, side by side further back. That fight does not seem to be going absolutely anywhere. Marimon trying to hang on as they go through the chicane. There's a look, though, nicely done, I think, from Queiroz, who nips his way to the inside of that second part through. Nelson gets the drive off the corner. The 22 just in behind, of course, of Nikolov, the Bulgarian, as well, trying to push him through on the inside, force that gap, and I think it might work, because the long way around a quorum is a difficult one to make.
Yeah, it is a really tough move, and if you're going to try and find it, that's going to be the key. Marimon hoping that the inside is there. There's contact with Queiroz. Both of them are going to go around, and just like that, they will ceremoniously move each other out to the top 10.
Oh my goodness me, that was a single-digit IQ rejoin for a moment there from the Spaniard. That is not the way that you want to get that done, but he managed to do it without getting anyone else involved in the incident, which is thankful enough. We get the adrenaline, but you've got to be so careful, especially at that sector of the circuit. In the end, I think it was too ambitious of a move to go to the inside of Murray's there, but it's happened. 10.5 minutes left of the race. What can they do from here?
Well, you say single digit, I like using room temperature IQ. That was sort of where it was at that point. Michael Elliott trying to recover, 16th position right now. And this is what you get judged on as a driver here, Zach. Not when you're up near the front of the field and getting great results. You are judged when it's not going right.
Exactly. No one really sort of remembers when you do well, but they never let you forget when it goes wrong, do they? That is just the unfortunate sort of thing of racing sometimes. But we're just going to check in with our leader, by the way. He's still here. He's chilling. He's doing his thing. Christian Bezerov out in front. Had a little moment early on, but has since not looked back. It's less than 10 minutes left to go, and he's on course for what would be his 4th race victory, of course, in a row, and is looking very, very strong indeed. Carlos Horn in the background as well, that number 14. Running really well, it must be said. But Vara, just in behind in that number 5 machine, he's looking menacing. One small mistake, and this is a fight for second all over.
Well, he's got 4 wins in a row. He had his first missed win at Lime Rock. This is for his 5th win of the season, and it has been his show, and everyone else has just been the friends along for the ride out there. Sander Vara not giving up on this podium run here and wants to get to second. And you talk about slipstream being important in this machinery. At 1.5 seconds, you feel that tug of slipstream, but it's not until you get within 1 second that you really get that chance, and it really shows.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be within that and chipping away at it. Of course, these MX5s, they've not got a ton of power. Of course, don't get me wrong, they're still pretty nippy for what is a very small car, but relative, you know, only about 160 odd brake horsepower, whatever it works out to be for them. So the slipstream is vital, making that engine work as effectively as possible. The number 4 machine looking to go to the outside, but that's really not going to work to the inside of Nelson. That's what it is. When you've got a low power engine, you rely on reducing the drag. That's how you can increase that top speed. And at a circuit as momentum based as the Snetterton 200, you are going to need that. But when there's fewer corners, because we miss out the entire infield section of Palmer's, Agostini, all of that, where you can make up time, there's less corners to make up time, and therefore it's harder to do so, which means that as soon as you can hook onto that slipstream, you can really start to reel in that gap more and more. The initial difficulty is closing that gap in the first place.
Luis Suarez there with the Ayrton Senna helmet, hoping that his run to the outside is going to be good. Trying to find the pass on Tom Weston, looking around the outside. He'll need a good drive here, but Weston cutting off there as he knew he had the clearance, will now get the drive on the Bentley.
Yeah, and he's going to be looking to maybe have the inside line by the time they reach Brundle, but again, it's not the heaviest braking zone in the world. With the fact that this is the longest straight in the UK, you carry some decent speed going into it, but you're not actually on the brakes for very long. You go under the bridge, that's pretty much your braking point, and the speed you carry is decent. It's all about this flick to the right, that change of direction, and this car, you've really got to balance that weight, use that momentum and swing the inertia of the car to get that change of direction through the right-hander. And if you slide too much and disrupt that rhythm of the car, that's then when the opportunity can arise. But at the moment for Luis Suarez, just in behind, he's trying to apply that pressure, and I think to an extent it definitely is working, but running off the road like that on the exit of Murray's is not the way to have the high ground.
No, it's not. 6 minutes, 50 seconds remaining, and all of the drive's going to be there in this one for a top 10 space. Armanula Bacchus trying to hold off Armin Schlermer. He's going to go around just about the gap there, and suddenly it's Schlermer holding off Schubert, Marimon, and Rene Zegela.
Yeah, beautiful battling, it must be said, for the most part in this race. There's the move potentially as well into turn 2. The number 2 sends it through, and oh my goodness me, tries to send it late on the brakes. Of course, it was then trying to turn into the corner. Fair enough. Was trying to turn into the corner on the outside. He had ample space on the inside, and inevitably, I think, there was contact between Weston and Suarez. Again, they're both able to continue. I think, again, that was just a little bit too ambitious from the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, but he's got to, and that's how he's gained 16 spaces in this race. The hard charger overall, and he needs every point he can get. João Schubert now, hoping that he's going to find a move on Armin Schlermer, looking to the outside. No clearance here as they go under the entrance bridge here, through now at Brundle. But look at that, around the outside, takes it at Nelson's corner right now, and that was an admiral's pass if ever I saw one.
Yeah, beautiful stuff, it must be said, from the Brazilian. That is exactly how you get it done. Fantastic livery, it must be said as well, to go with it. So not only does he look good in terms of the car, he also looks good when he's getting the moves done through Coram, just trying to keep it as tight as possible so you can open up Murray's and really soar off that 90-degree corner to maximize your exit. He now leads what is a 4-car train going all the way back to 13th place, which is going to be a very difficult balancing act for him to manage, as well as trying to keep that position he's worked so hard for, because immediately there's a counter-attack.
Yeah, but look, he's going to be a bit deep in through the corner, and Armin Schlermer was alert to that. Finds the up and under, looking now to Wilson corner on the brakes. It's a battle, and now a bit of Noah's Ark sim racing, 2i, 2D, as they go through. Rene Zegela waking up to a place on Pedro Marimon, and they will continue their chase as they go along the straight. Down in the background now, that's Nikolov getting through on Thomas Martinez there for position. So everywhere you look, there is something going on, like Sandavara, for example, who's now into second.
Yeah, this is a race and a half. 4 minutes, 18 seconds left to go. Probably going to translate to 3 more laps. That's wide from the Spaniard. Way too much speed, son. And tries to correct it. In doing so, only loses 1 position. A little bit, of course, this is, well, the same battle. It's the number 4, of course, of Zegler on the back of Schubert, trying to pick his way through. And it's the ebb and the flow. Positions constantly changing. And it's been such an intense race, but such an entertaining one at that.
Yeah, and it's that intenseness that we've seen. Vara, of course, through now on Carlos Horn, and that was a lovely move concocted to get up into second a lap ago. He did miss it, but now Sandavara, who is at 5 seconds back, is now at 3 seconds back. But here's the issue he's got right now. He's got 3.5 minutes to close down 4 seconds. Old Father Time has won every single race he's participated in.
Yeah, I mean, of course, 4 seconds in 3.5 minutes is going to be tough. At a circuit where the driver can do less to make up time, as I said earlier, with less corners, you rely so much on that rhythm and hoping that Vazarov makes a mistake, but I don't think that could well be the case. I mean, he made one earlier on, but since has been flawless. He's only got a little bit of time left to run. It's going to be tough, not impossible, but I think Vara might just have to settle for second place. Marimon fighting as well for what is P13. He's got the Finnish driver of Rantanen just on the outside, but no way through for him. Marimon's able to stay ahead, but being hunted in the latter portion of this race.
Yep, so there is certainly a case to be made that Kalle Rantanen, who is on the bubble right now, outside looking in the championship, would love a couple more positions to give a little bit more security here. Pedro Marimon would be a lovely pass in front if you don't make a mistake like that. And Michael Elliott, of course, his teammate, is going to jump through and comfortably pick that up. So Kalle with the mistake. Positive delta going negative there for Kalle Rantanen.
Yeah, that is not what you want to see. Going forwards is great, staying the same is okay, but going backwards is a big no-no, especially at this latter portion of the race. Penultimate lap, of course, with just 2 minutes left on the clock. Vizarov crossed well, it worked out that he was going to get one more before the timer ticked 0. There he is, of course. He's running very well. A negative delta that's running pretty positively.
It's amazing that positive delta and negative delta. I suppose you get an equal delta team if they decide to make a merger at some point. But Christian Bissarov has been driving absolutely faultlessly here in this race. The one mistake he had on lap 2, he more than got himself out of trouble, built that gap right now, and he looks behind and thinks, you know what? He's doing quite well. It's going to be quite close here in terms of time. He'll cross the line, and I reckon it's either going to be 1 or 2 laps to go here. I reckon it was about 1 second's difference. We'll see when Barney throws the flag.
Yes, I didn't see a white flag thrown, which I think means the sim has decided this is the penultimate lap. He has got the gap, I think, to slow down and sort of make it be the checkered flag, but I don't think he's going to do that. We did see a mistake, actually, through turn 2. Took way too much speed going in, but it is going to be close. And, well, I think I might have to revoke what I said this time a lap ago then, if he's been able to make an extra lap work. I don't really think it's going to make much difference for that fight for the lead. What it could do is make a huge difference in this fight for second. Vara is going to want this race to end ASAP, whereas Horn wants that extra lap.
Carlos Horn is searching about then at Brundle Corner, looking over at Nelson Corner for an opportunity. Batters the anti-cut curb there on the inside, hoping that there's going to be a chance, hoping there is some salvation from the Bulgarian who leads this race to say, please sir, can I have this race extend one more lap? Christian Bissarov will drive his way through the final corner then of Murray's and make his launch over towards the line, and it will go official here. We will find the checkered flag, and Christian Bissarov is going to, I think it's going to be one more. I'm not quite sure here that the checkered flag's flown yet, but Sander Vara and Carlos Horn are driving like there is one more. It was so close in terms of how they went through. Half a second, I think, the difference there on the makeshift there. So Bissarov, I think, will still go with one more. Vara and Horn now are going to have themselves with a massive attempt here to try and get their race to sort themselves out. But it's wonderful at this moment the way he's driven away. Duarte and Davila battling, by the way, just in front of them, with this being the final lap of the race. Horn will look behind and hope that he's going to have an opportunity to fire his way through. This is his last chance. Closing, still closing, still not enough, as he now drives his way through and now needs a bit of help at Murray's. He'll need that great slingshot run that you get here through the bomb hole, and that opens up opportunities here to find that pass, of course, along the right-hander of Coram and lead over towards Murray's to get this one all sorted out. Bissarov, this lap around, is going to find his victory. No doubts about it this time. Checkered flag will come out, and he was brilliant, and it's a fantastic fight for him. Behind him, though, Carlos Horn has stolen it on the final corner of the race.
What a race, ladies and gentlemen. That was absolutely fantastic from start to finish, and Snetterton does not disappoint in some MX5s. What fantastic cars, fantastic drivers, couple that with a great circuit and you get fantastic racing like this one that's been going down to the wire in the battle for the top 10. It's the German of Schlomer that's going to get the final place inside it, very closely followed by the Dutchman and the Brazilian of Zagela and Schubert, who fought valiantly all the way to the end. They see the checkered flag and assume their positions. Fantastic job from everyone.
Yep, some wonderful work then from a lot of drivers here, and as they do make their way over towards the line, we will get confirmation of results as they roll over. Christian Bisserov, 5 out of 6. Dominates here today at Snetterton, ahead of Carlos Horn with Sandavara in third position. Tom Weston would finish fourth with Luis Suarez in fifth, leading home a different nationality Suarez in Marcus Suarez in sixth position with Alexander Nikolov and Andre Luigi seventh and eighth. Thomas Martinez would finish off in ninth with Armin Schlermer making good progress in 10th.
Behind that, of course, outside of the top 10, just for the Dutchman of René Zegelaar, João Schubert from Michael Elliott. The Spaniard of Pedro Maramon ahead of the finish of Kalle Rantanen, who rounds off the top 15. The South African of Baku's the top 16. Bruno Albino just in behind with Sir Alan Toon, Lorenzo Auden. Unfortunate for the Dutchman, who was running so well up until the contact. Sergio Duarte rounds off the top 20.
And then just 3 cars after that, Arturo de Villa, the last finisher in this race, 1 lap down the Mexican, with Eric Kieroth and Wietse Bertels, the 2 retirees then from this Club Cup race here from Snetterton. So that pretty much puts that part in, but we've still got 2 races to go. We're going to quickly take a chartered flight from Norwich over to Milan. We'll see you in a couple of moments' time, where Division 2 at Monza is our next race. They don't make circuits like this one anymore. This is what I would call a unicorn out of racing circuits. It's got all of the high speed. It's got all of the ability to create amazing racing. And the best bit about it is, it's just a stone's throw away from Milan. This is the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, racing around the Royal Park like they have done since the 1920s. And this is a circuit that absolutely separates driver from driver from driver. Who will find their opportunity to pay their tithing today at the Temple of Speed? That is what we are going to understand through two more races here tonight in the Simify MX5 World Sim Series. But before we jump on over and do a little bit more in terms of our racing action, let's get an understanding if you've never been here already. This is your GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years.
The one thing I love about racetracks is when you get a massive circuit with lots of drafting potential and you put cars that very much do not have top speed to run out. In terms of what this layout brings today, in terms of how this racing will go, Zach, quite simply put, this is what I would say has been a highlight on the calendar this season.
I mean, it is, right? It's Monza. You cannot go wrong. It is such a good circuit. To hot lap can sometimes get a little bit boring. When it comes to racing, though, it is nothing short of fantastic. The run through the Rettifilio off the back of the Parabolica, perfect overtaking opportunity. Look out for turn number 1, though, because, well, it's Monza and it's infamous for it. You run your way through Curva Grande into the Roger, the left, the right. Sometimes can be an overtaking opportunity. Got to be careful of those curbs on the inside. Through the Lesmos, it's all about minimum speed, carrying it through before that back straight run towards Ascari. One of the most satisfying complexes to hook up in all of motorsport. The left, the right, the left, being so careful to balance the limit of the car before you run your way through into the Parabola. Of course, a Parabolica. It's tight going in, it opens up coming out. That's the lap, 11 turns, and fantastic racing all the way through 25 minutes.
And that is once more what we are going to get our eyes situated with here today. But the MX5 World Sim Series has so much amazing action, and this championship that's walking into is going to be great. It is the reigning champion up on top at the moment, Jaume Dalmases, who is there ahead of the very consistent Adnan Grozdanic in second position. Jason Cooper for 5-star has Yuanji Lin as his teammate behind him, 4th in the championship, with Alberto Blanco and Jack Veazey 5th and 6th. Nuno Ferreira is 7th, but there are 2 drivers who are dominating up at the top, missed 1 round's worth of racing, and are charging up the order. Ade Koba and Nicholas Goebel. The 2 came to blows at Sonoma 1 month ago. Will those emotions still be running high here around this Monza circuit? The top 10 then, of course, is rounded out quite lovely by Per Sandberg. But the Nations Cup is going to be an interesting scenario right now, considering the gaps that we're seeing right now, Zach.
Yeah, it is. I mean, at the moment, Spain lead the way by what is a fairly healthy margin over Germany and the UK, but we're still half the season left to run. Plenty of opportunity for things to spice themselves up. Further down, we've got the US, the Netherlands to round off the top 5. A long way back comes France, but only 50 points back, 60 points back, I should say. Commentator's mouse, it's fine. Is Brazil, followed by Belgium, Bulgaria, and Portugal, the top 10. Only a point separating the 2 for the back end of the top 10. So still close, still plenty of opportunity for things to change.
You can always trust commentator English, but you can never trust commentator math. That has always been a port of call. 5-Star Motorsport lead a very tight team standings over Zenith Esport, the team of Dalmases and Blanco, with MX5 Deep Dive finding themselves in third position. Simrace Sweden Esports find themselves fourth, ahead of Sweat Sim Racing with BB1 and SDC Spirit 14 in sixth and seventh. Simtech Racing find themselves in 8th position. 3G Racing will be hoping for a couple of generations of update to get to 5G. They find themselves down in 9th, with the very ominous sounding The Organization find themselves in 10th position, just 14 points adrift. And it's exactly the same as you would find in the club race if you were here a little bit earlier. 25 minutes here, Zach. And I think 25 minutes in these races, I think it is a little bit different to what we saw in Snetterton. I think it's going to boil down a little bit more to those last couple of minutes.
I think so. Of course, it's a longer lap here at Monza. We're looking, just looking at the timesheets at the moment from qualifying, and they're just over 2 minutes and 14 seconds in length, which is a fairly long one compared to what we had a minute and a half at Snetterton. So we're going to get less laps, but the slipstream should hopefully keep everyone nice and close for slightly longer throughout the duration of the race. And similar, in fact, actually to what we were talking about at Snetterton, with the slipstream and how these cars race, you're going to stay nice and close, that if you make a move early on, chances are the driver behind is going to be sat with you for the rest of the race anyway, which means that track position isn't going to be overly important until, as you say, those final 5 or so minutes where you can really start to make those moves, because you only need to lead one lap. That's the last one.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. It doesn't matter where you are before that, so long as you can get yourself over the line right now. Albert Palahi has found his qualifying lap in. We are on one-shot qualifying. He's 300 short of Miles Owens at this moment, who is the fastest driver in qualifying as it stands. But there are some quick drivers out there who could still improve their times. One of them is the number 14 machine of Philip Scriffignano, who could be someone who finds himself with an opportunity today. He needs to maximize his points haul, and we are seeing these qualifying efforts. Palahi getting his last little bit of qualifying prep in at this stage. You can see he's weaving around trying to see what he can get. Scriffignano will not get a time in. He's had an off track somewhere on the lap, so he'll have to go somewhere from the back. The only other driver out on the lap right now here, Zach, is Sandavara.
Yeah, so of course we've just seen him a moment ago in Snetterton in the club race, which of course is open to everyone. But into Division 2, it's a bit of an adjustment to make, going from being so familiar at one track to then having to adjust to another. The good thing is he's familiar with the car. He's warmed up, he's acclimatized, and he's able to maybe get some good results on the bounce. 5th place in the championship, and through the final corner, it's looking fairly quick. Can he get that run to the line? The time set by Miles Owens is a 2:14.366. Can he get anywhere close to that? It's a 2:14.8. It's not bad going.
It is the third row of the grid. He will go from 5th position out there at this moment in time. So that would be something to be quite happy with if you're Sandavara, and that will be everybody done in their qualifying efforts with just over a minute to go in terms of their racing, which will mean that we can get a little bit of an early start, so to speak, in telling you about Simify with our Simify starting grid. Simify is, of course, your one-stop shop for all of your sim racing gear. You can choose from iconic brands, and you can mix and match for the best way to get your leg up on the competition. Simify is a company that ships worldwide, and it also has 2 sim racing centers, one in Madrid, one in Barcelona, and they are dedicated to improving your sim racing skills. You can head on over to www.simify.com/MX5WSS. You will have your discount if you follow that link, which is also down in the description of the YouTube video. It will give you the opportunity to have your discount applied automatically on your sim racing purchases today. We are getting set for what is an important Division 2 race, and a lot of drivers in and around the mid-teens to the early 20s and 30s in the championship find themselves here today. Miles Owens will be on the pole position with Albert Palahi alongside for company. Matt Tempest will go from 3rd alongside Tony Wallace. You've then got Sandavara and Willem van Rassel making an all-Dutch 3rd row, as Patrick Alders and Mathieu Camus will go from 8th place. You then got Tom Weston in in 9th, and he's got Melvin Tyne for company. He starts 10th.
Behind that, of course, you then go to the rest of the field. Charles Kellerman alongside Christian Hinch for row 6. Edward Grobe ahead of Mick Robinson, that's row 7. Longo ahead of Tanner Greta keep each other company as they round off the top 15 and 16. Thomas Martinez and Philip Scrifgano, row 9. Roberto Bruno and Nuno Ricciardo, the top 10 rows, rounding off with just 2 lonely drivers at the back.
Yep, and they are Pedro Marimon and Rene Zegelar, 5 drivers unable to set a time. So they are then decided on where they grid by their iRating overall. And iRating does matter for those who only do league racing. There is how the field will look in terms of those conditions. Nothing really to affect them here today. It's as pure as it gets in terms of how they race. 25 minutes once again. Lights on once more. Owens versus Polahi at the front. Green flag in the air. And we are racing. Pretty solid starts there from everybody through. Maybe a bit of trouble for Tony Wallace, who will have to deal with Sandavara out there. And look how aggressive you need to be. They'll cross the beams immediately on the run to the Retafilo, the biggest bottleneck in sim racing, as they dance onto the brakes here and try and tiptoe their way through this first chicane. The prima of the prima round already. We're going to get a huge bottleneck finds itself through.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. If this is your first time at Monza, get used to it. And oh no, it's all gone wrong for the 31 machine of Tanner Greta. That, ladies and gentlemen, MX5s at Monza, it was going so well. I was thinking they're going to get through, and then they most definitely didn't. The chaos continues through Curva Grande. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a massive scramble. It's gone through about all the way to the Biasino curve as well. So it continues. They go on through. Tom Weston in 5th position right now, trying to find his way forward with Melvin Tyne. And look at the gaps already. In one race, one corner, one sector, they are already nearly 10 seconds off here in the 8th position right now. Melvin Tyne having a little look behind him with Weston and Charles Kellyman in the optical car, very much avoiding all of the dramas early, but it's 3 clear at this front. It's Owens, it's Polahi, it's Tempest, as they now run under the old circuit and up towards Ascari.
Yeah, those that were pretty much inside the top 8 were able to get away and get home free because they got through cleanly. That's what you want at Monza. You either want to start at the very front or the very back. That's the only way you're going to get through unscathed. That's getting a little bit tight and twisty through Ascari, of course. Melvin Tyne just trying to find his way through, but no way through on Weston, who seems to have a fairly secure defense. Further up, though, and that top 2 battle, Owens has got Polahi for company. Tempest not a million miles away, but needs to make sure that he's in the slipstream, because if those two work together just for a couple of laps, that gap can very quickly start growing.
Yeah, and you've got to try and find a way to skyrocket here. And Albert Palahi in the SDC Spirit 14 racing car sees the Sweden eSport machine in front, and that is a bunt draft. And we'll see a lot of that on the straight. Palahi thinking about moving over to the outside, but he's got to remember, he just gave the car in front a bump draft, so he's going to be a little bit quicker in a straight line as they all dance onto the brakes into the Retafilo once again, knowing they've got an absolutely almighty gap and changes going about everywhere in this field. Some massive gainers out there at the moment. Philip Scriffignano up 9 spots on the opening lap of this race. Nuno Ricciardo up 10.
Yeah, that is fantastic, and just goes to show that you can just get through cleanly, you know, channel your inner Lightning McQueen and dance your way through the carnage. You can make up some good spaces. Pedro Marimon under pressure from what is a very damage-stricken Tony Wallace. That is not how that car rolled off the factory line. That's probably going to be doing a lot in terms of the drag. So much more surface area for the wind to hit. Sometimes it can just be cosmetic as opposed to actually damage the car. All depends on the netcode and things like that. But that doesn't look good nonetheless. Loses the pace and drops down to 15th, unfortunately.
Well, Tony Wallace, in America, they would call that car a modified with the way that it has got so much damage on the front of it. Tyne has lost both his places then in this battle. One to Kellyman, one to Tom Weston, who will now charge up through on this run up towards Ascari right now. That, of course, is the Seraglio, and then over to Ascari, which is this left, right, left chicane, which is all about threading the needle, knowing when the right time to put the power down is, because you're always trying to feather the throttle through there as Alexandre Longo in a GTD racing car tries to keep in play. And there is Mathieu Camus, who did very well in Division 2 last time out at Sonoma, now finding himself jumping up through. That's Michael Tanagretti he's made the pass on.
Yeah, nicely done. In fact, actually into the top 10, so looking fairly decent. It must be said, still a lot of race left to run though, and look at that gap already up to Ricardo. They've what, 9-ish seconds, 8.5, whatever it is, give or take. I mean, to 9th place, they've already effectively capped themselves at the top 10, and that of course is partly in fact due to the carnage that ensued on lap 1, but battling this hard this early is not a good look for the rest of the race. We've got no complaints though in the commentary booth, because it's absolutely amazing to watch. Tanagretti tries to launch the counter-attack, in doing so brings Marimon and Bruno into contention.
Yeah, and then here goes Charles Kellyman, who will lead the resistance right now in this race, knowing that Owens, Palahi and Tempest could decide to try and play this game amongst themselves on the podium. These three drivers just have to drive and hope that that gap will come down, or there's dramas between them up at the front of the field. Kellyman comfortably making that move. Now Weston will look behind at Melvin Tyne and think, well, what do I need to do? Over through the Biasino and here towards the Canal Chicane, or the Variante della Roggia, as it's known, it's colloquial Italian. There's the look from Melvin Tyne, comfortably looking on that inside and allowed the room to slot into line. And that's what often gets missed in terms of racing like this. It's not about going side by side, it's about knowing when to pick and choose the battle.
Yeah, I've had it literally so recently. Did a bit of karting, jumped back in after, God knows how long, and was just like, yeah, I'm going to go and have some fun. And the way that everyone around me was just like, we're in 13th place and we can see a train of 7 karts up in front battling. Do you know what I'm going to do? Instead of working with him, I'm going to overtake and fight for 13th. That's not what you've got to do. You've got to settle down, think long term, think where you could be in 5-10 minutes time, not where you are right now, because I can guarantee with the unpredictability of racing, things can and will change if you just give it a chance. 18 minutes left to go. If it doesn't work, you can battle later on. But right here, right now, the racecraft being shown by some of these drivers, they are going at it far too early and capping themselves in this race.
Yeah, Roberto Bruno giving the shove forward, down the inside, Mathieu Camus looking around the outside at Ascari, very difficult to pull off, and that might just compromise his run 1, 2, 3 times a lady. Over with Michael Tanagretti trying to look. Roberto Bruno damaged, of course, on the front, and that will compromise in a straight line, but Camus at the moment, he's got the speed and he'll go the long way around and he'll be followed into the box you go. Michael Tanagretti there, pretty much chasing a pavement like he's singing an Adele song, but Michael Tanagretti not much to do. 3 wide, we go for 4th.
Here we go into the Rettifilio. Of course, it's Charles Kellerman all the way on the right-hand side, and is probably, if he's clever, going to lift off and back out. That is getting very dicey. Melvin Tyne, of course, just not really sure what happened there with, of course, the number 7 of Weston. That was peculiar, it must be said. Both of them sort of pinching each other onto the racing line, and I think Tyne just trying to brake as late as possible, whereas Weston was trying to move over to the racing line as much as possible, and it just sort of congregated. No harm, no foul, though, as they all continue forward. Let's take another look.
Well, group of 3 becomes group of 5. This is what happened on the start. We'll take a look at it from Tony Wallace's perspective here from the organisation. He was 4th position. That was the SDC Spirit 14 gaming car of Sandavara there, who was looking to try and fly around the outside. So on the brakes, there goes the look from Tyne on the inside, so just about avoids that. A little bit of contact goes through, and it's that 2 into 1, which was almost exactly identical, that style of contact, to, believe it or not, Hamilton and Verstappen in 21.
Oh, let's not get into 2021 F1, because I'm sure we are going to annoy a certain chunk of people. The F1 community are ruthless, and no matter what you say, there is someone to annoy. So, yeah, we'll, yeah. Anyway, it can be very reminiscent of that, and, well, it definitely had a very similar consequence in the sense that it definitely did cause a lot of upset. In this case, though, more in the literal sense of causing a huge blockade of everyone else in behind. Back to the live action, though, and it's a fight still in the way of 4th place. Weston from Toyn, Kellerman and Scrifgano, just the top 7 in this race, and also a very close fight at the front. Tempest, Owens and Palahi going at it.
Yeah, Matt Tempest has gone from 3rd to 1st. He went to 2nd. He's just made the pass to get up into the race lead. But look at what horse is being backed right now by Albert Palahi, and they will fan out 3 wide on this straight, heading to the Retafilo. Palahi doesn't have the run, so he backs out of it and pulls back into line, leaving Owens to scrap with Tempest right now. And is there going to be a storm at the Retafilo? No. Tempest backs out of it, allows Miles Owens then in the number 17 car to take control. It's 2 Brits versus 1 Spaniard out there at the moment, and watch out because Melvin Tyne is trying to get himself back into 4th position. No look that time through at the Retafilo, but he does get a little bit of a double take that takes him through. Camus now also making his pass. That's Alexandre Longo he's through on.
Yeah, nicely done. Of course, the Frenchmen doing battle together. That's, of course, for P9 and P10, and they're in a bit of no man's land. They've got a few seconds behind them. They've got a few seconds ahead of them, and in behind, actually, speak of them, they're doing battle. Pedro Maramon fighting with Mick Robinson for 12th and 11th place, respectively. It is the number 6 that finds their way ahead nicely, but Camus versus Longo, I think they should, in theory, maybe just settle down. That is an issue, though, for the Dutchman of Melvin Tyne through the Roger. Such an easy mistake to make.
Well, he's blown an engine. That's what's happened. He's blown his engine on the downshift. Of course, they are going to be driving a lot in the slipstream. The engine temperatures are going to rise because of it, and Melvin Tyne's engine goes pop. He'll have to take a tow back to the pit, and when he does, he'll be able to jump in a spare car and get back going again. We'll see this on the downshift, and you'll hear it. Listen in. There it went. Just like that, Zach.
And it goes pop. Usually in iRacing, you've got this thing called downshift protection, which basically, if the engine's revving too much, it will stop you from downshifting because obviously you go into a lower gear. Like, say, when you're on a bike or whatever, we'll get back to that in a second because Palahi looks to the inside to move his way into second, does that quite nicely in this lead fight. But say if you're riding a bike, you're in 6th gear and you turn the dial all the way down to 1st, and suddenly your legs just start going absolutely rapid. Same way in engine, you go down a gear and it just overworks itself and pop. Just like that. That wasn't the case. He over-revved it and it went kaboom through the Roger. That is him out of the contention effectively. He can get back out into another car, but that probably won't happen. But this fight for the lead is enthralling. Palahi, Owens and Tempest. Could we see some works of Shakespeare?
We definitely could, and they are moving into the 2nd and 3rd act, so to speak, right now of what is this race. And soon they will reach that 5th act, and all of that betrayal will come into play. Who will side with who will get what out there in a race like this. That's what's going to be the understanding from these drivers. And you've got to talk about the fact that gaining places is the aim of the day right now. These 3 up in front, happy. Someone like Nuno Ricciardo back in 6th. He's gained 14 places in this race. He's the hard charger, and there are bonus points on offer for him.
Exactly, and you want to maximise your points. Points mean prizes at the end of the day, and that's the reason they go racing, to win races, to win points, and try and maximise their result for the championship. Because when it comes to that all-important finale, you want to make sure you've got your ticket to that final round at Laguna Seca. So trying to work his way forward. 12.5 minutes left to go. Half distance has been reached in this race, and this fight for the lead does not seem to be going anywhere at all. They're free to fight because they've done the hard work of getting away from everyone else during the first half, which means hopefully it's going to be gloves off, fisticuffs for the rest of this race.
Right, let's put the question in. As a little bit wide goes Matt Tempest, and this will compromise the run through every part of this Ascari chicane and over towards the Curva Alboreto or the Parabolica, whichever name takes your fancy. If you're in this scenario right now, Zach, and you've got 1, 2 and 3 who sit there right now, would you rather be P1, P2 or P3 going on to the final lap?
See, on to the final lap, it's difficult because there is more than one opportunity to find your way through. So typically, you'd say you want P3 going on to that last lap. I would absolutely categorically, I can tell you what I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want P2 because you're looking forward to attack, backwards to defend, you're sandwiched in between 2 cars, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be the one that's at the disadvantage. If you can lead, you can back them up and control the pace. If you're at the back of a train, you can use that momentum to sort of find your way through. Tempest, by the way, is fighting away with Owens, but is unable to find a way through on that particular occasion. I've got to say, It all depends. It's circumstantial, but you either want to be in the lead or in P3 going on to that final lap.
So do not be in P2 is the order of the day from Mr. Sweeney. So keep an eye out on that. Philip Scriffignano in 5th position, looking to jump past Tom Weston, which will mean he'll get a share of the point on bonuses with Nuno Ricciardo if he can make this pass on the 007 machine out there, of course, of Tom Weston. So Scriffignano knows how important this move is going to be. Not being able to qualify the car really hurt in terms of his laps, but watch out behind, because that is again Camus with Pedro Marimon looking to go to the outside, and they've brought Mick Robinson into this battle right now, and it's the long way around the Biasino curve, the Curva Grande, so to speak, and Marimon here with the overspeed, getting it done 4 clicks faster through that section of road. Nothing that Matteo Camus can do as he looks over towards the Della Roggia and has to yield.
Yeah, I would just like to preface, by the way, do take everything I say about sim racing with a pinch of salt, because I bottle the drive in the 2023 British F4 season because of a poor showing in sim racing. So everything I say, don't take it as gospel, but these guys definitely know maybe a little bit better than I do in terms of the racing action. At the moment, though, this fight for P10 very much enthralling. That fight at the front, though, is as close as ever. But the question again remains, what does it mean? Because right now you go into 2nd place, the next lap you're back to 3rd, and then the next lap you're in P1 again. It's constantly chopping and changing, so much so that every position change in the overall narrative of this race doesn't actually mean much. It's almost inconsequential.
Well, you are jostling about for position, and that, I think, is quite telling here right now, because you're thinking, where do I want to be in this race and what do I think is the best way forward? Yes, you can pass here and you can pass there, and you're always putting your race at risk right now with 9 minutes, 4 seconds remaining on the clock, but it's about what do you want from that. A lift out from Matt Tempest allows comfortably Albert Palahi through, and he'll try and pick the pocket of Miles Owens, who leaves the room on the inside, gets well out of it as Palahi was ready to shut the door there as he goes through. Call him the Artful Dodger. He said, please, sir, can I have some more passes?
Yeah, well, we are getting plenty of that here today. Overtaking left, right and centre. Palahi now leads, but for how much longer? Because immediately the momentum swings one way to Miles Owens, who I've seen in a plethora of different MX5 championships before. That young man can get aggressive. He knows how to get his elbows out. He knows how to win races. At the moment, it's a Spaniard sandwich with, of course, that UK bred either side. Palahi sandwich between Owens and Tempest at the front. 8 minutes left to run, probably going to translate to 4 laps at the line. It is going to be very close. All depends as to how long is left on that timer by the time that they finish this lap. It could well be quite close indeed. The fight for 4th is not really there because Weston versus Scriffignano is not exactly infinitely close. Other close battles further down, but the talk of the town are these top 3 vying for victory.
Yep, Scriffignano got through on Tom Weston using the lap traffic and Melvin Tyne as a pick, and as such, he's trying to break away in that sense. Out of Ascarin, you'll see a lot of drivers here, Zach, running that junior circuit line, which you can also have as a layout here of Monza and iRacing. So using all of that circuit, a lot of the time, you'll see around in iRacing that, you know, the white lines are the white lines. You've got to respect the white lines as Palahi dives down to the inside. But a number of places, that being one of them, you can extend past the determined white line of the circuit and use a different area of the track, which is often also considered circuit.
Yeah, exactly. One very good example of this is Woodcut at Silverstone. You can use all of that inside bit on the inside. And I used to think, well, hang on, surely people are getting off tracks doing that. No, they're not. That's track you can use. All about reading the briefing that you get, where the track limits are, and making the most of it. Could we have a 3-wide moment here towards the Rettifido? Owens, Tempest and Palahi, make sure you're keeping it sensible because there's still race left to run. Owens, of course, versus Tempest. It is going to be the 17 that leads going into the corner. But these guys, they're not leaving anything on the table, and there's still a couple laps left to go. Imagine what they're like on the final lap.
Yeah, that's the question. Look at the work that Tom Weston's done. He finds his way back through. Melvin Tyne being a little bit naughty there in the middle of this group. He is sort of influencing what's going on, but he's a lap down in 21st position after taking his fast repair. So for him to be back out there and meddling about with this race of 4th and 5th, I'm sure both Weston and Scriffignano would like this to be pretty much even, but right now for Philip Scriffignano, it's not very useful when you got Melvin Tyne effectively pushing Tom Weston towards each corner.
Yeah, exactly. He's getting a bit of a helping hand, isn't he? Which is suboptimal, to say the least. And well, that's sometimes what it has to be when it comes to Monza. You've got to sort of play with the cars that you've been dealt. But nonetheless, you've just got to, again, just focus forward and see what you can do. Tyne, of course, now is in between the pair of them, but back to this fight at the front. There's battles up and down, but this one is the most enthralling. They're fighting for second. This is the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, because if you start fighting for second, you'll let first run away, and they don't want to let Miles Owens have too much of a leash here in this race. 1.5 seconds, the rubber band will snap. Half a second, they both realised it, did Palahi and Tempest. So Tempest will stay in second. Albert Palahi will look at that and go, well, I did want to make that move, but now I'm going to have to bank on another lap going around before I've really got my shot to make this happen. 5 minutes on the clock would indicate that we got 3 laps worth of racing.
Yeah, exactly that. For it to be the penultimate lap, it'd have to be 2 minutes and 28 seconds. 4 minutes and 28 seconds. That most definitely is not going to be the case. It will be 3 more laps of running at the line. Miles Owens versus Matt Tempest and Albert Palahi in behind. Like I said earlier, a fight for P2 at this stage is inconsequential because they'd battle for second and then straight away they'd swap again the next lap or even the next straight. But what they can do is invest in the future and fight for the lead. That's what Tempest is doing now. Once again, the blue and grey on the inside, this time later on the brakes, but Miles Owens saws his way through, and that is data they're collecting for that all-important final lap.
Well, Miles Owens, each and every time, has got about 10 metres on the brakes compared to what Matt Tempest has got. And that must be quite shocking for Matt Tempest to realise that he will want to try and make that move, but he's a little bit too early on the brakes. Matteo Camus will also have a way to battle. He's got Pedro Marimon for a bit of company. They've managed to break away from Mick Robinson over the course of this lap, and look at the work that's being done. They want to make sure it's just a race between 2 drivers trying to take away as many variables as possible.
Yeah, there are a million variables every lap when it comes to motor racing. That uncertainty is why we love it, being suspended in anticipation, because it would be boring if we knew it was going to happen.
Slow down!
But
slow down
goodness
for Miles
me,
Owens.
he only drops to P3. That I think he's cleared it in enough time. He's gonna hope that the top 2 start doing battles so he can reel himself back in. I think he's still just about still within the tow though. That could have been costly, but he's just about gotten away with it.
Yeah, he got way too aggressive through the Della Roggia, and at 0.7 of a second, I think he's just about going to get away with it. He's now on the back of this group, but Albert Palahi is there. Matt Tempest leads this train now, and this becomes a case of where do you want to be in terms of this. Scriffignano now will clear the bit of traffic there of Melvin Tyne, and will realise this is now my race against Tom Weston.
Yeah. Everything is in his hands. You write your own destiny. You are the pen on the paper. Side by side for the lead. Palahi takes it to the inside of Parabolica to start what will be the penultimate lap of this race. This is the trial run. How good of a run can you get out of Parabolica? Can you overtake them before the line? That's what Tempest right now is judging. Will he get him before the line as they kickstart the next lap? Just about. So that is invaluable as we go 3 wide for the lead.
Here we go. Miles Owens was not going to wait outside of the race lead for long, and he just sweeps, absolutely sweeps around the outside. It's a yellow and blue car leading a blue and yellow car leading a blue car. That is what racing's about at the moment. A little bit wide and a mistake. Palahi slides, and just like that, he'll drop to the back of the group. Will he hold?
We talk about removing the variables, and Palahi has just cancelled himself out of this equation. The gap is now 1.3. Owens and Tempest can be clever about this. They do not want to fight on this lap. Next lap is where it's all about. Do not bring Palahi back in. As harsh as it sounds to the Spaniard, a 1v1 is so much easier to win than when you've got another car in the mix. You can set up moves better, you can race easier without having to worry about what an extra driver is doing. It is going to be close. He's not completely out of it, though. If they do battle, he can very quickly become reeled back in. This fight, this threat from the Spaniard is not over yet.
No, it's definitely not. So Palahi still a factor. It could have been the end of this race. It maybe isn't. He goes straight through the gravel at the second of the two Lesmo corners. And just like that, it is going to bring Matt Tempest a little bit of a smile, but he is clawing that gap down to 1.1 seconds. He is definitely trying to throw what he can at the wall, hoping that it sticks here at this moment in time, Zach. But right now, Matt Tempest has got one thing to focus on. That is just driving forward.
Exactly. Focus forward, do the job, stay with Owens. Do not let him get away. Same is going to be true for Palahi, same is going to be true for Owens. Focus forward, cancel out everything else in your mind and drive that MX5 how it's meant to be driven, and that is as fast as possible. Here at Monza, there's a lot as a driver you can do. Throw the car through, have that commitment, but also maintain a smooth balance of the car that you're able to maintain. 16 seconds on the clock, white flag will be thrown. Owens, Tempest, Palahi, it's all been boiling down to this.
It absolutely has, and now Matt Tempest will close and close and close a little bit more to 2.5 tenths of a second, now to 2 tenths, now to 1.5 tenths, and pulls over to the inside. How late does he dare brake? He's earlier again on the brakes. Miles Owens round the outside again, can find a way to defend. Tempest, no confidence, under brakes. Palahi now sits at 0.8 tenths of a second behind this group, and Matt Tempest has got to be brave if he wants a way past Miles Owen through this Curva Biasino, and now over to the next section of road, the Della Roggia, the Canal Chicane, which comes up next. He'll have a little look in the mirrors, trying to force himself to be a bit wide, but Miles Owens knows that he has everything woken up to this moment. Absolutely perfect. He goes through, and Tempest once again is sitting on and realising that he is going to need an almighty run out of Ascari if he wants this race to go. Through Lesmo 1, Palahi closes again, now looking at Lesmo 2, and Matt Tempest, that gap is now up at 0.5 seconds. This is going to be troublesome right now on this final lap of the race for Matt Tempest, because he might not even be able to guarantee his second. He might have Albert Palahi flying back on the run to Parabolica. This Ascari run up the hill, it's going to be crucial. This is where the metal is going to be tested on nerves under braking. Miles Owens, absolutely perfect, but Tempest threw the car in on the inside, and now he's going to get a sparkling run, but so too is Albert Palahi. From nowhere, he's going to be in this one, and they're going to scrap to Parabolica, moving over to the outside, giving the inside to Matt Tempest. Is that wise? Miles Owens, here we go to Parabolica. Work it out between you three. Someone's going to win this race. On the brakes, they now start to scramble, and Tempest with that inside line. Does he start forcing the agenda? Yes, he does. Now it's a drag race as they head through. The side draft there from Miles Owens. The push there from Albert Palahi. Is it going to be enough for Tempest? Yes, it is.
What a final lap to the end. Tempest by 27 thousandths of a second, and the entirety of the top three separated by less than 1/10. That is virtually invisible to the naked eye, but it was enough to separate the top three places in what is a fantastic Division 2 race.
I like to say that's called 27 sheets of paper. That's the difference over the line. Incredible stuff as we get the rest of the drivers coming over, and what was a very scattered race today in Division 2 here at Monza due to the lap 1 shenanigans that we had. Camus will come over the line with an 8th place finish there, and a number of drivers will be licking their wounds here, Zach, thinking that they're going to have to wait an entire month for the next opportunity to score big points.
Yeah, that's the problem, of course. I mean, there's pros and cons to a calendar like this. The pros are that you've got plenty of time to practice, right? You've got plenty of time to go back and reflect and refine. The disadvantage is, like you say, you've got a long time to reflect and think and be dwelling in the dumps about what could have been a poor result, but also then that momentum that you get from winning, on the flip side of that, also has a chance to wear off. off the back of one round into the next, you've lost that hype, you've lost that adrenaline sometimes that you can get from going on a week-to-week basis, using each round as a stepping stone. So there's pros and there's cons, but it's a long wait for redemption if you want to be able to bounce back after a poor showing.
That is Edward Gross on the final lap of his race, buried in what is not the nicest place in the world. So it looks like he's maybe stalled his car or something, or he's actually completely damaged the front left. That's the issue he's got. Front left is completely caved in, and one thing he didn't need was that stopping. So he's had a little bit of drama on the final lap of this race, and he won't make it, where Thomas Martinez will do in 19th position. So a dramatic run as all things are said and done. We'll get confirmation of result then here on your screen. Matt Tempest getting the job done. 27 minutes and 3 seconds of the best sim racing ahead of Miles Owens and Albert Palahi there. A showcase from these top three. Tom Weston would manage to finish off Philip Scriffignano in 5th position, with Nuno Ricciardo 6th and Charles Kellyman in 7th. It would then be the two Frenchmen, Mathieu Camus and Alexandre Longo, 8th and 9th. Pedro Marimon would round out the top 10.
Behind that, of course, you then get Mick Robinson, Willem van Rassel, Patrick Alders just in behind, 12th and 13th respectively. Tony Wallace, despite driving half the race without a front bumper, finishes 14th, with Sander Vaar, a tough showing there, rounding up the top 15. His countryman of René Zegelaar, rounds off in 16th. Christian Hidlet just in behind. Michael Tannegretta behind that, Thomas Martinez. Edward Gross, who of course has some difficulty on that final lap, rounds off the top 20.
He's just crossed the line, 3 minutes and 8 seconds behind the winner. Melvin Tyne will be 21st, and Roberto Bruno will be in 22nd position. Overall then, in that Division 2 run, we got one more race, and it is your main event coming up. You do not want to miss this one. We'll be back here at Monza in a couple moments' time. Stay with us. The Simify MX5 World Sim Series Round 6 here at Monza. Your main event comes up after this. It was fireworks in Sonoma 1 month ago. Koba and Nicholas Goebel coming to blows. But what will happen in the park of Monza, where it is all about high speed, where it is all about pick and choose the right moment? This is Division 1, and this is where the points are here. They're battling for a pole at Laguna Seca in December, and this is Monza at its finest. We are in the throes of qualifying. I'm Jake Sperry. Once more, alongside me is Zach Sweeney. Daniel Costello on cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Zach, Division 1, this is where everybody says, right, we came to play the game.
Yeah, these guys should have the best. Of course, an average strength of field of 4,500 iRacing. That's an average. That's a mean average of the low end and the high end. Looking through, you've got 9K, 7K, 6.5. These are the real deal when it comes to championship running on iRacing. 2 minutes 48 left of qualifying, and this is the pinnacle of this championship. This is what we come here to watch, and hopefully should be the best of the 3 races. But it's a hard benchmark to beat. The first two have been pretty good.
Yeah, Jaume Dalmases only a best of 9th with his qualifying effort, so he'll have a lot of work to do to claw his way back through. Lincoln Fox has done his qualifying effort, so Jack Veazey and Eugenio Pulici are going to be 2 to keep an eye out on in terms of their times. They're just heading around the final corner right now there, and the Foxtrot racing car looks absolutely stunning, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, just having a quick look at it. It's pretty nice, I've got to be honest. Nice colour scheme, and Lincoln Fox at the wheel, of course. Let's see what he can do in terms of this race. Just out there trying to maximise, of course, track time. P15 when it comes to the qualifying standings. 1.2 off the time set by Ade Koba at the front. 2:12.8, that is a remarkably quick lap time, it must be said. But like we saw in the Division 2 race here at Monza, track position not necessarily everything with how raceable this circuit is. It's all going to depend on that first lap spread. How bunched up is the field going to be after the first chicane?
Yeah, and that's what we saw in Division 2 as the big sticking point. But what I can confirm right now is that there are no drivers out on a qualifying lap at the moment. You only get 1 lap for hotshot qualifying, with qualifying being 10 minutes long. So Ade Koba will be confirmed as your pole sitter with his Simify Sim Racing Esports team, the Simify starting grid. Once more, Simify is your one-stop shop for all your sim racing gear. You can choose from iconic brands and mix and match for the best way to get your leg up on the competition. Simify is a company that ships worldwide, and it also has 2 sim racing centers, one in Barcelona and the other one in Madrid. And they are dedicated to improving your sim racing skills. If you head over to them and say that Global SimRacing Channel sent you to go and have some great sim racing happen, you can head over to www.simify.com/MX5WSS. You can find it in the description to have your discount applied automatically on your sim racing purchases today. A dominant qualifying from El Capitan Fantastico. Ade Koba on the pole position on a 2:12.851. We'll get the grid up in just a moment as the session ticks over. But a great qualifying by Vladi Shopov, who will be alongside him on the front row of this grid, with Jason Cooper, 3rd in the championship, lining himself up in 3rd, along with Alberto Blanco, the leader of the Zenith Esports cars, who are there in 4th place. It's Nicholas Goebel and Lars Fischer making it a 5-star 3rd row of the grid, with Nuno Ferreira in 7th and the consistent Adnan Grozdanic with work to do in 8th place. Jaume Dalmases, the reigning champion and championship leader, has it all to do for a 9th, and consistent Per Sandberg will round out the top 10.
Behind that, of course, we've got a long grid all the way down to P24, but P11 goes the way of Dylan DaCosta, and Franco Sanchez will keep him company on the 6th row. Jack Veazey ahead of Michael Chase, who's hopefully going to be in the chase, working his way forward from 14th. Lincoln Fox, of course, in a fantastic livery car, rounds off the top 15 ahead, of course, of Calais Cavisto on row 8. Dan Skinner ahead of Trevor Roy, Martin Sampson and Tucker Salyer round off the top 20.
the last 4 drivers did not set a qualifying lap. Surprisingly, Camden Hibbett was one that didn't set a time, along with Eugenio Pulici, Ronald Mons, and Stéphane Dumas, who will be the last driver there, 22nd in the championship, and it all to figure out. This is what makes Monza so special. A race around the Royal Park as they now sit just 5 kilometers out of the central of industrial Milan. This is a race that has got the potential to have any number of victors out there, and anybody has an opportunity to put their name on this one. They know how important the summer was last season for Jaume Dalmases, who found his dominant stretch here. Is it going to be something similar for a different driver in this one, trying to unlock their potential? We will keep our eyes peeled as we take an eagle-eyed look down, and now here at the start, Ade Koba, Vladi Shopov, Jason Cooper and Alberto Blanco, your front 2 rows. Watch out on this start. Lights on, lights out, and Division 1 is underway. Immediately over to the right-hand side goes Ade Koba. He didn't get the best of starts. And Vladi Shopov now to the outside will try and pull alongside and does. On the run to the Rettifilo for the first time in this race. Now you've got Jason Cooper sat there in 3rd position. Where does he go in all of this as they fan into the brakes? Shopov, aggressive, too aggressive. Can he pull it back in line? Contact for the top 2. They all go around and suddenly it's a scramble.
That was so poor at the front, but it's caused utter carnage and turmoil. This is the pinnacle, and they look like amateurs going through turns 1 and turn 2. But out of all of that, it's Jason Cooper who makes the most as they fly in formation further back through Curva Grande. A fight for P4 as Nuno Ferreira, Jack Veazey swap positions towards the Roger.
Well, that was big in terms of the opener. I'm not sure they were expecting that one to go through. Vladislav Shopov will look a little bit sheepish after that, knowing that he's outside the top 40 coming into today, knowing he needs every point he can for position when it comes to Laguna Seca, and he'll be needing his 3 drop rounds, since he didn't start the opening 2. 3 clear at the front. Jack Veazey with a lot of work to do to keep attack of Nicholas Goebel, Alberto Blanco and Jason Cooper. 2 5-star cars and 1 Zenith Esport machine. Work needing to be done, and troubles as well for the likes of Jaume Dalmases. A great start by Camden Hibbett, who's up to 9th through all of that.
And that is what happens when you get your head down, you take a cautionary stance going into that first chicane, and you just let it all come to you. You just work your way through, you go left, go right, just avoid what needs to be avoided, and you aren't aggressive, and that pays off so well. Fight for the lead though, the 3 cars at the front separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Could this be telling of a similar titanic battle to that we saw in Division 2? Alberto Blanco trying to go to the outside of Parabolica, in doing so not quite. Alongside they settle back into single file, lap 1 in the books, and for some it's one to forget.
Well, the issue that they're going to run into here is that they're not really gelling quite well together. Blanco is effectively a bridge between the divides between the 2 5-star cars who would love to work together in this race. Nicholas Goebel now to the front, the German. Blanco in 2nd, Cooper in 3rd. But on the brakes, they are all back together again. Veazey, Ferreira, Grozdanic, Dan Skinner, Per Sandberg, Camden Hibbett, and you can say Dalmases and Franco Sanchez are there as well. 2nd group is being led by a battle between Martin Sampson and Lars Fischer heading to the Piassano.
Yeah, Curva Grande, of course, this very long right-hander. It's pretty much easy, flat out on either line in pretty much any car, so it makes it very easy to go side by side. The issue arises when you reach the Roger. The inside, of course, does usually prevail, but the outside, if you're brave, can definitely work. On that occasion, though, of course, I think Lars Fischer just thinking better of that one, and of course, playing 2nd fiddle. In fact, actually, no, he was the one on the inside. I do apologise. He's the one in that orange and blue. He works his way through and was taking to the aggression. Further up, they are definitely still working quite nicely, but Nuno Ferreira, the driver from Portugal, and that, unfortunately, could well be a deep dive backwards.
Yeah, and Jack Veazey's got one as well, so he's deciding to serve it here on the run to the Seraglio. He didn't want to serve it between the two Lesmo corners, and as such, look at this. Lap 2 is the worst time for a slowdown penalty. It takes the delta from lap 1, and he will fall out of the leading train.
That could be huge. That is so unfortunate. And again, small mistakes have big consequences. It's a butterfly effect, okay? One small thing and it exponentially branches out and could well affect the rest of this race. Camden hit it looking to the inside as they run their way towards the Parabolica. Not quite enough to be ahead before the braking zone, but he is going to have that inside line. Worked his way through up into the top 5.
Up 16 places, part of the parallel racing group, and a driver that spends a lot of time on the SCCA scene out there in the United States of America, doing a wonderful job out there. There is your race leader right now. It's Nicholas Goebel with Blanco in second, with Cooper in third. The fastest lap trading hands to Adnan Grozdanic in 4th position, who is yet to pick up a win this season. I would absolutely love one. On the brakes to the Rettifilo. Grozdanic goes straight on and just about avoids drama into the back of Jason Cooper, but that will bring a lovely run, and Camden Hibbett pushes for all his might.
Yeah, they are going to be doing exactly that, I assume, all race long. 20 minutes still left to go of this, and I hope that it's going to be a common theme throughout. Of course, sandwiched in between the two is Alberto Blanco in the Zenith Esports car. Of course, a very renowned name in sim racing, battling in so many different cars and categories and championships across the world, and very successful. And look, emulate that in the background, though. That is Sanchez round at the Roger.
The Peruvian in trouble, and that was not what was wanted or what the doctor ordered. Franco Sanchez finding out the hard way as he was battling with Nuno Ferreira for position down the inside, trying to steal a march, and then that just went around. Jason Cooper at exactly the same time has fallen down the train because he has made a small mistake going through, which I assume was a slowdown penalty by being too aggressive through the first part of the Della Rogia.
Yeah, exactly that. Easily done. Right. Oh, that is sideways. Oh my word, Alberto Blanco, that could well have been day done. Thankfully able to hang on to it though through Ascari. Just goes to show the level at which these drivers are pushing. But of course, the number 5 machine still in hot pursuit for the lead. The question remains, does he fight it? I would say if he's clever, he's going to be bump drafting, getting away from Grozdanic just in behind in P3, so they can isolate themselves in the field, and a huge one in the background.
Yeah, that's massive as they've gone through, and it might be Jaume Dalmases. It is! It's Jaume Dalmases, the championship leader, who is off the road at the Parabolica, colliding with Jason Cooper, 3rd in the championship, and that is a massive, massive seismic shift in terms of this championship.
There we go. Of course, fortunately, it's the best 7 results that get taken, which is, of course, means you can have a couple of off weeks, but it never. Nice contact at the front, though, and Goebel gets pushed wide. Blanco takes the lead. Controversially, they're going to run themselves side by side, but on the scene comes Grozdanic. Hibbett, Skinner maybe in the background as well. They're languishing with Sandberg. This could very easily be a 6-car fight for the lead as they continue their way through Curva Grande.
This could go any which way, because now look out to the inside. Here goes Camden Hibbett. 4th to 1st, he'll try and find down the inside, but Nicholas Goebel will have to let him have it. Camden Hibbett in 4 laps, 21st to 1st.
What on earth? Talk about progress. Now that is an ascension. That is insane. He's got a long way in order to keep it because, of course, things can constantly change. We're going to take a look further back, of course, as to what's been happening because it's been a chaotic start up until this point in the race.
Jaume Dalmases diving down the inside of Jason Cooper, launches into the turn, and look at that damaged fender just clip the right rear there of Jaume Dalmases. Nothing that Jason Cooper can do about that. It just hooks Jaume Dalmases around, and he has a hefty bit of contact into the tyre bundles over at the Curva Alboreto, and that for the reigning champion and championship leader was not what the doctor ordered. That's put him back. But now it's Hibbett from Blanco, from Goebel, from Grozdanic, and do keep an eye out on Dan Skinner and Per Sandberg as it's side-by-side for the lead, and through goes Alberto Blanco.
Yeah, of course, as we say, at this stage, how important really are these changes of position? Because they're going to be chopping and changing all race long. Like I said in Division 2, inconsequential at this stage. Unless you can get in front and get away, things are going to change. It's all about staying in it. Like a NASCAR race, like an oval, they're going to be changing positions, like in a cycling race as well on a track where they constantly change who's at the front. It's going to be like this probably until that final 5 minutes, where the stakes begin to rise and track position starts to mean more and more. But hopefully we're treated to a good race anyway, because we do like to see some good side-by-side. Between now and then, so much can happen, so much can go wrong, and that's really what we're looking at in order to change the narrative of this battle.
Oh, and look at the second group as well, because Jack Veazey's just had a bit of contact out there with Lars Fischer, and everything is kicking off there. This is calming down a little bit here in this group as it's side-by-side for the race lead just in front, as Blanco and now Nicholas Goebel will make that move and go forward. But that second group right now contains some very important players, including the recovering and damaged Ade Koba, who right now might be able to still steal a top 10 in the background. Fischer now leads that group. Koba has a massive moment through the gravel in front of Michael Chase and somehow able to save it, but it's allowed the likes of Ferreira and Fischer to break from the second group.
Yeah, of course, Koba was a victim pretty much of that initial crash between himself earlier on and the driver that he, of course, shared the front row with. But he has fell backwards, and mistakes like that are not going to be helping his case one bit. He had a bit of a moment again, and it's all about momentum. And with slipstream and how important that is, you need to be taking a hop, skip and a jump through every single corner around this circuit, gaining time on those ahead. A win, a podium, still definitely possible, but it needs to start right here, right now. And that ascension back through, working with that pack to use the slipstream, hope the front six continue to battle so they can once again close in. If they don't, and even one of them sort of doesn't get the memo and tries to be a rogue in that, it can throw the whole plan up into turmoil and allow this front six to stay as they are.
Well, you've got to look at two drivers in this one, number 46 and number 68. Camden Hibbett and Dan Skinner outside of the tickets to the grand final going into today now find themselves with a golden ticket to put themselves inside the top 40 on this result. This is huge for them. Double there in terms of the run of bump drafting. Hibbett onto Blanco, onto Goebel. This is Talladega Nights.
Yeah, it is. And if you're not first, well, maybe they are going to have the sort of the mindset that you could well be last at the end of this race, because that is what they're all going to be vying for in this top six. They all see the opportunity to go forward. They all see the win is right there, and that's what they want. They don't want to settle for anything else. Lars Fischer fighting as well for P7 with Ferreira, but they're leading this train. Well, in fairness, they've got a bit of a gap. Again, P7, P8, yeah, a couple of point swing, but at the end of the day, is it really going to matter? Does the risk versus the reward constitute battling this early? Still got half the race left to go. The top six are battling like there's no tomorrow. Work together, bump draft, push, swap places, use the slipstream, and see, just give it a go, as if you can catch that gap, because you might be able to get 6th, 5th, 4th, maybe even a podium, maybe even a win. But if you begin to battle, you've got a 100% chance of, at best, finishing P7.
Well, the one thing they'll also be looking at is that it is Ade Koba behind, and El Capitan Fantastico has got to do everything he can to gain places. And Lars Fischer, realising that Nicholas Goebel is his teammate right now, knows that his first port of call is that if he gets caught, make Ade's life as difficult as possible. That will be the first challenge there to this man, this race leader, Nicholas Goebel, with Blanco there, and now here comes Camden Hibbett, wanting a bit of track position to move into second. Down the inside here at Parabolica, and he will now look to get a bit of a drive off of the exit of the corner, which will give him what he needs. So that's going to be where the focus is. Nicholas Goebel still holds that lead, but now he's trying to hold the weight of the world behind him. There are 6 drivers at this moment in time who are favourites for this race. There are 3 spots on the podium, which means we're going to have 3 bridesmaids in this sim racing wedding.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm not exactly sure it's going to be a happy wedding at that. 3 drivers going to be missing out. In fact, 5 drivers are going to be disappointed, I think, at the end of this one. A huge dive to the inside from the Zenith driver of Alberto Blanco, who finds his way back into 2nd place, sealing that track position. And again, I know I said earlier on that track position is inconsequential in a train like this, but ideally you want to be inside that top 3, because I know it obviously sounds obvious because the top 3 are the better places, whatever. When it comes to pure track position, you cannot afford to be in 4th, 5th or 6th come that final couple of laps, because you've got to be in the mix, ready to pounce for the lead. Right now, 4th, 5th, 6th is fine. You're still in the conversation, you're still in the battle, but in a couple of laps time, watch out for Grostanic, Skinner and Sandberg to be that much more aggressive, because they know how important it is to be momentum-based, to be in those front 3 places come that final lap.
Oh, a little bit Raggedy Ann in the back there. I think that was Michael Chase going across the gravel with Koba and Tucker Sawyer there just in front, looking forward. And there is Ronald Mones a little bit further back, having a mistake. That will allow Stefan Dumas to go through and up then into 17th position. Ronald Mones, of course, the owner of the Virtual Belcar series, which is based out of Belgium. And Belcar is one of the great national series that you find on the European continent.
Yeah, and plenty of them, to be fair, when it comes to European racing, but definitely up there. Less than 10 minutes to go, by the way, in this race. Ade Koba is trying that comeback drive, right? He's inside the top 10. He can see P8 and P7, but when you go into a race on pole position, right, you expect to win. As a driver, you know you've got the pace, you feel like the top dog, and to have it thrown away, not even have a chance, not even to settle into this race, to have the opportunity thrown away at the 2nd apex on the 1st lap is heartbreaking, but he's not allowed that to demoralize him. He's picked himself back up, he's composed himself, and he's pressed on. P9 at the moment. What more could well come in the next 9 minutes and 14 seconds? Getting very dicey at the front, though, as they're nose to tail, all 6 of them in that fight for the lead.
Yeah, it's 5, and Sandberg is quite wisely leaving a bit of gap every time on the straight. He knows that there could be something that happens into some of these apexes. He doesn't want to go out there and be overly aggressive, and he is playing the long game. That's how he's got himself to top 10 in the championship as things stand. 8 minutes, 47 seconds remaining here in this race, plus added time for those who looked at England-Slovakia that happened today. Added time is going to be crucial in a race like this on the final lap.
Yeah, exactly, but we've got a long way to go until we get to that point. 8 minutes 30 between now and then. It's all just the build-up, the tensions rising, the pressure starting to boil amongst each of these drivers, and then when we see that white flag wave, that is when they're kicked into overdrive. That's when they find that extra gear and kick their way up, and there is some issues further back. I'm not entirely sure who it is. It might be the 56. It is.
Sampson caught out, Trevor Roy as well in the 3G racing car, and Demolition is the name of the game.
That, oh goodness me, it most definitely isn't. Of course, it's the World Sim Series MX5. Demolition is far from what you expect to see, but that is such a shame for Martin Sampson of the optical car. Again, another driver I've commentated on before in MX5s. He knows his strengths, he's so strong, and to see that car look like that is heartbreaking and more.
Jump for the race lead, contact through Ascari. Blanco holding on to a rodeo, and we could be 4 wide. On the straight we are. Adnan Grozdanic and Camden Hibbett trying to go through the middle, and suddenly where do you go in this moment? Dan Skinner with nowhere to go has to settle back out of it. It's Hibbett around the outside. All of that happening at Ascari.
Yeah, it all kicks off. It's such a small fuse, and all it takes is a spark to ignite and catalyze a huge reaction, and that's what we've got. 7 minutes on the clock. Alberto Blanco in 4th place, trying to decide which line to take. The inside works, and look at that from Camden Hibbett. He's not got the slipstream, and oh my goodness me, they've been turned on the straight. How on earth have you managed that?
Adnan Grozdanic is pretty much done. in terms of this one. Turned on the straight with an unfortunate push onto the quarter panel there. Goebel with nowhere to go with Blanco, and Sandberg is off with Nicholas Goebel too.
Like I said, it is a small fuse and it's a spark. Just that, just a match lighting, and it goes just like that. And we were waiting for that catalyzation to happen. Let's have a look as to what happened further back.
Yeah, so this is what happened with Trevor Roy. It was Tucker Sawyer off the road, having to serve the slowdown penalty. Then they try and find a way through the middle, and there's just not enough clearance. Roy into the side of Martin Sampson, who would have been a little bit unsighted there on that outside, and that causes the big dramas there. Something to keep in note. Everyone you'd expect to be up there in the championship right now. Jason Cooper, Adnan Grozdanic, Jaume Dalmases, Ade Kober, Nicholas Goebel, all in trouble today.
Yeah, that is just so unfortunate. And again, it doesn't take a lot for that to happen. So unfortunate. And you can't emphasize it enough. It is heartbreaking as a driver to have it ripped away so harshly. But the show goes on at the front. 6 become 3. Blanco from Hibbett and Skinner, the top 3. Behind that, there was Goebel, Sandberg, Ferreira, Kober, and another plethora of drivers. But again, let's take a look as to what happened once again at the front.
Well, it was bumped there perfectly, but then he gets shuffled over by a half a car width there, Zach, and that just means that Adnan Grozdanic gets hooked on the quarter panel.
Wow. And that's a big one. That is, he's just gone, right? That is effectively just race over. Yeah, you can get back and have a spare car, but your chances in this race are gone. The fight at the front, though, Blanco versus Hibbett, 5 minutes on the clock. It's going to be 3 laps to go. And, well, this fight is going to be raging down to the end. What it does mean is these guys at the front, their lives are made easier by the fact that, well, they weren't involved in the crash. It's a straight line, and you don't expect to crash on a straight, but when tensions rise like that, it becomes all too easy.
It very much is. Now, here's the issue that Dan Skinner has in his qualifying effort, as Grozdanic is limping around here in 18th place with the black and orange mechanical flag. He'll have 4 laps to serve that, or he gets disqualified. He should be able to finish the end of the race with that damage. The issue that you got out there for Dan Skinner is that in his qualifying lap out there, he was 1 second slower than Hibbett and Blanco and than the overall leader, Ade Kober, who will now reignite his rivalry with Nicholas Goebel trying to make this pass, which is going to be very interesting. So how does Skinner make his move as Goebel just allows Ade Kober the room to have that place?
Yeah, exactly. Kober's done a brilliant job as to manage the carnage that's gone his way. He knows that if one small issue can befall him, then issues can befall other people, and he's worked his way back up into P4. It's not the race win that he'd have wanted, but again, you write your own luck, you make your own luck, and you've got to cup your hands out ready to scoop it up should something go wrong. And if something goes wrong amongst those top 3, guess who's going to be the one to pick up the pieces? You've guessed it, it's Ade Kober there in 4th. He's leading the pack that's trying to chase. Worst case scenario, it's a place inside the top 5. That's not bad going. Best case scenario, with 2 laps left to go, he could well be able to work his way onto the podium.
From being turned around at the first corners to finding himself in 4th position right now is huge, especially with the damage on his front. Here goes Camden Hibbett. He doesn't want to wait around any longer. He's going to now move then to the point of this race, and he goes to the zenith, so to speak, on the Zenith Esports car, knowing that Dan Skinner is there behind. 2 drivers who'd absolutely want some points today, and this is what's going to make it interesting. You've got Jason Cooper, who's lapped traffic here, who will behave and stay out of it, but you're looking around at it, he's going to be a little bit of an unknown quantity for what these drivers want. They start weaving here with 2 laps to go here at Monza, and now here comes the push. Alberto Blanco gets a little bit of help from Skinner.
Oh, and oh my goodness me, it's getting so close as Blanco not wanting to give an inch more room than he has to. Camden Hibbett, though, in 3rd place. Like I said, that's one of the better places to be in a train like this. You can see everything. You can be both proactive and reactive in a battle like this. You can really sort of charge that momentum more and more, put pressure onto 2nd place, who themselves is trying to put pressure onto 1st. Should anything happen in front, you are the one there to pick up the pieces. You are the one that is in control. Conversely, also in the lead, you are quite literally the driver in control. The one place, like I said, in Division 2, I wouldn't want to be is exactly where Dan Skinner is. He's got to move forward. He's got to put that pressure on Blanco before the pressure from behind becomes too hot to handle.
Yeah, and there is a lot of pressure behind that Camden Hibbett, we're on board with right now, is being able to put through then at this point. Koba and Goebel. You feel as well that Nicholas Goebel in that second group could really do with Lars Fischer finding a way past the Swede Per Sandberg.
Yeah, it's very close actually, a bit further back, but we are following the fight for the lead, so we're just going to see if anything's going to change here into Ascari, but close fights up and down this field. That is a very long train, you are right. Further back, Sandberg just trying to move his way through. Hibbett, no changes into Ascari through the left, then the right. 1 minute left on the clock. The white flag will be shown this time by. That is that fight you were alluding to. Per Sandberg in 6th, 2 cars ahead of him, of course, to find that top 4.
Well, we could see the move here, or are we going to have more bump drafting? More bump drafting. Here goes Camden Hibbett. Was it the right choice? Trying to edge out a little bit here is Dan Skinner, but he's earlier on the brakes. And Camden Hibbett now will jump his way up into second position as they round Parabolica for the penultimate time. They've got 6 seconds to play with in the back pocket. And now here comes the charge on the straight. Pushing goes Camden Hibbett. Dan Skinner moving all the way over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Does he need to be a bit closer here? Alberto Blanco leads. He's been lieutenant for the entirety of this season to Jaume Dalmases. Now that he's out of the race, it's carte blanche. But you look behind and it's 3 or 4 wide. Blanco's got what he wants, but the move now is Per Sandberg here for 4th position. Almost the 5-star cars running over each other there. Lars Fischer nearly took Goebel out. Goebel back down to the inside. He's going to try and take it away, but Sandberg's got drive, and Ade Koba now is going to steal a place away. Oh, this is sensational, and El Capitan Fantastico is looking for 4th place out there. Back to the front, Camden Hibbett, who started on the 11th row of the grid in 21st position, looks at Alberto Blanco and says, I've got your number, sunshine. I want to get this move done, and he won't get it here through the Della Roggia, and he will now try and line this one up through the 2 Lesmo corners. These 2 transfer style corners that come along next. Camden Hibbett just waiting and waiting on Alberto Blanco, hoping there's going to be an opportunity here, and you know there will, with how strong the slipstream's going to be. At this point, Skinner's still there, doing everything that he needs to, and watch out that group behind of Goebel and Koba and Fischer and Veazey, who could all take advantage if it goes pretty much up in the air. But Camden Hibbett is waiting for Parabolica. He will not move an inch. He is going to wait for the final possible moment to make this move on Alberto Blanco if he believes he can get it. Blanco P5 in the championship. Hibbett outside the top 40. So too is Dan Skinner, who's a bit too far back to make this happen. All the way to the inside. Camden Hibbett unlocks the door and looks for the inside line to try and get this move sorted. Has he got enough? Blanco on the brakes needs to be quite clever here because he's trying to get back up and under, but he'll understeer through the section. Dan Skinner might find a way for second. Camden Hibbett, run, run, run as fast as you can. 21st on the grid to first. Sensational stuff. Skinner steals second.
3 wide, nearly across the line. A battle further back as well. It's going to be Fischer from Goebel and Koba, who wanted more in that race. Only 6th place for the Spaniard from pole position. Not the way he wanted to go. Roland Moons battles all the way to the checkered flag as well, side by side with Sanchez for P11, and indeed does get it. They're 2 wide and 2 rows of 2 as well, with Palucci and Dama just in behind. But goodness me, what a battle of the ages there, all the way through the pack.
This is Per Sandberg on the final lap, turned across the nose of Ade Koba, and the stewards will have a look at that post-race as Sandberg will not finish on the lead lap. The limping Adnan Grozdanic will feel very hard done by here in this race. It will be P19 he will end up with coming over towards the line, and quite simply put, Adnan, this is a one which you can forget, but a lot of the drivers around you also ran into troubles today, so you can take that as your quantum of solace to go home with and work out what you are going to do next month. We will get confirmation of result here. Camden Hibbett from 21st position on the grid to victory overall. Dan Skinner, with his best performance in his MX5 World Sim Series career, takes a podium along with Alberto Blanco, who ends up in third. Lars Fischer will finish fourth ahead of his teammate Nicholas Goebel, with Ade Kova, after being spun on the opening lap, coming back to sixth place. It'll be Jack Veazey finishing in seventh, with Nuno Ferreira in eighth. Michael Chase would pick up ninth ahead of Tucker Sawyer, who would round out the top 10.
Behind that, of course, it was very close in that fight for P12. Roland Moons tips Franco Sanchez on home soil to P12, ahead of Eugenio Palucci, ahead of Stefano Dumas in 14th. Vladislav Shopov rounds off the top 15, ahead, of course, of Dylan DaCosta. Martin Sampson involved in some crashes, only 17th for the number 43, ahead of the Finn of Calais. Kavisto, Adnan Grosdanic could have asked for more, as he lines up ahead of Per Sandberg, the Swede, again rounding out the top 20. What could have been for those two drivers.
And then we find the retirees here. Trevor Roy would be 4 laps down. Jason Cooper would finish, but would only finish 5 laps down. And then you have Jaume Dalmas, the championship leader, and Lincoln Fox. Those the last retirees from what was an incredible racing showcase here from Monza. We're going to get a chance to talk to your race winner overall, who joins us now. Camden Hibbett, from 21st on the grid to a victory here today at Monza. The champagne couldn't taste any more sweeter, my friend, could it?
No, that was a incredible race. I don't know, I don't really know how I got up to even in the front group. In qualifying, my wheel actually came loose from the wheelbase, so I couldn't finish my qualifying lap. So that's why I started in 21st, and then I kind of went into the race just thinking, hey, let's salvage some points here and see what we can do, and managed to get up to the front group in the first couple laps, and just kind of being patient from there, I guess.
Well, it was manic from the start. You found yourself in P1 after 3 laps and 3 corners, which was an absolutely masterful showcase. But everyone around you, all the main players of the game, seemed to have their troubles one way or another. That opened it up for you, for Dan, and for Alberto to go out there and play the game. So for you, was it easier being in a massive group of 7 or 8, or did you find a little bit more comfort when it was down to 3 drivers out there?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of depends on the situation and a little bit on the track as well. This week it was definitely more comfortable being in the smaller group, because you don't have to worry about the bigger checkups into the first chicane. The bigger the group is, the more complicated it is. Or sometimes braking 150, 200 feet early if we're in a group of 8 or 9 cars. So you saw the smaller 3 or 4 car lead group be able to pull away just because they didn't have those big checkups. So this track, it was definitely easier to work in that smaller group, and it made it a lot simpler with the final lap, final corner, the battle that was going to take place.
So for you now, you vault right back inside the top 40. You now look at where you can find some points. July will be around the corner, and it will be Knock Hill, the next round of the championship. How are you feeling about that one? And are you going to attend? And what are you looking at in terms of your big key to deal with a track with so much elevation change?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to attend or not. We're kind of playing it. We're kind of going week by week at this point. I haven't been able to make the last couple because of my real world stuff. So it's been tough trying to make races. I don't know if I'll be in attendance for Knock Hill, but Knock Hill is going to be interesting because it doesn't have any of the draft that you have here at a place like Monza. And it's just, like you said, it's got a lot of elevation. It kind of reminds me of, I feel like it's going to race a lot like Zolder, only Knock Hill has a lot more elevation, and it's going to be interesting racing. You're going to see cars bouncing over the curbs like crazy. It should be a fun race to watch.
Well, Camden, real world as well as virtual, the floor is yours. Anybody you'd like to thank? It is a mega victory for you here today at Monza.
Yeah, thank you guys for the awesome broadcast. My mom and my dad for letting me do all the real world stuff. Byers, Rainier, Aussie Sales, Westerville Automotive, Autosmarts Radio, Team Spirit Custom Trailers, And then Racing Prodigy, I'm actually flying over to London on Thursday for the Racing Prodigy draft. So anybody in the UK, make sure to tune in. We will be at the Williams Fan Zone for the Racing Prodigy draft on July 6th, 2 p.m. British time. So huge thank you to Racing Prodigy as well for that opportunity. So it's going to be, we got a fun couple weeks coming up, both real and virtual. So it should be fun.
Well, someone is a busy driver, and by every single measure of metric is because of the ability he's shown today. Camden Hibbett there joining us, picking up a huge win here at Monza, and one that will go down as one of the all-time results for him in the Simify MX5 World Sim Series. Zach, absolutely fantastic racing here today. It just put on a manic showcase, and then when you put together that both Club and World are going to have some interesting battling going out, the Club Series is going to Summit Point. It's Knock Hill for the MX5 World Sim Series. Two tracks that are very surprisingly similar despite their differences.
Yeah, and so different to what we've had here today as well. Knock Hill is a fantastic circuit, particularly in MX5. So raceable, but so tricky. The undulation as you run your way through the downhill chicane, the right, then the left, then the uphill left, right, that blind crest, and of course Summit Point as well here on iRacing. Very brilliant to race with. So I think in about a month's time we're going to have a very interesting race to behold, or 3 races to behold. Today was fantastic, enjoyed every second.
Well, you can only catch it with us here at the Global SimRacing Channel, and if you haven't had the chance to already, please like, please share, please subscribe, please do everything that you can to promote some incredible sim racing action across the globe, because this is, simply put, where the best that the MX5 World Sim Series comes to go and race. Want to give a massive thanks to the team who's got it done today, of course, from Daniel, of course, from Dougie, of course, from Zach as well. You have just seen on your screen all of the equipment that gets it done, including the music by June Lalonde. You can catch her stuff on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance to already. All of our upcoming broadcasts are scrolling across screen right now. If you haven't had a chance to mark them down, pause right now, get the events that you want to see in your calendar, and make sure you tune in for those. You can also catch our social media and go to our website, and on top of that, go to our merch store and get a little bit more GSRC merchandise. It was one of those races where you just had to be there, and this was the sort of performance from Camden Hibbett that will go down in folklore. 21st to 1st in one of the toughest series in the world. To go out there and get a major performance, Camden Hibbett, take a bow. But when Knock Hill comes a-calling, 1 month from today, who will be the Flower of Scotland? You can only catch it with us. Race clean, race hard. We'll see you at Summit Point, and we'll see you at Knock Hill.
Yeah.